Luffy is officially Yonko tier, and I'm really excited to see how this plays out moving forward. What's up, people? My name is Zell. This is Zell Media, and I'm bringing you my review of One Piece Chapter 1027. So let's go in. This week's cover art is a reader request again. Sadly, no new story yet, but we get to see Roger being chased by a lion, which is pretty awesome. He drew on the lion's face, which is the same kind of goofy stuff that you love to see. Really befitting of him and Luffy as parallel characters. And it kind of gets away from that seriousness that he sometimes has that's a lot more like Ace's character, that is. Um, Moving forward, we see Luffy has officially reached Yonko tier. This is almost completely indisputable. Yamato and Momo open the chapter by recalling the words of Odin. Quote, when Roger and Whitebeard met in combat, the heavens split. This cements Luffy as a top tier, guys. Come on, like, he's no longer chumming around with the likes of Kid and Law. Like, this isn't any tagline against them. This is anything bad about them, but like, he's just ascended to a whole nother tier. In the next panel, we learn that Yamato's Mirror Mountain move was not as effective as she would have liked, and she herself is very wounded. Um, this kind of looks pretty worrying, but I think for like quote unquote power scalers out there, that brings her back down to Zoro's level or Zolo's level. Like, it's closer in representation to them. So, hey, this is good for everyone. Um, Luffy yells at Momo, moving into the next panel to, Luffy tells Yamato in the next panel to help Momo the coward out, which is lit because like Luffy's always going to be Luffy. He's leading the way that he likes to lead. But Momo's responses are becoming more telling that he's growing up. He says like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, but one's nature doesn't change immediately. So that's really cool. Momo and Yamato then leave, and while they are trying to escape, Kaido's not trying to look like Big Mom today, so he rushes down and goes to attack them. Yamato clashes with Kaido, and then Luffy grabs Kaido from behind. So unlike Big Mom, Kaido does have somebody who's on his tier to deal with that day. So they get down. Down below, we get a pretty cool scene of Yamato teaching Momo how to crawl along the sky, or fly, as Momo calls it. Momo then informs us that we're down to 5 minutes from our previous 15, which kind of puts a pretty huge timeline on us when it comes down to the fact that we still have like 2 Yonkos to defeat, 2 Vice Admirals to defeat, and a mountain to stop from falling. So, it's not a lot of time. Granted, Luffy also beat Crocodile in a span of like 2 minutes that was stretched out for eternity. We also find out from Yamato that if the island does fall, it's not just the people of Wano who are going to be hurt or anything like that. Like, Onigashima filled with explosives. It's going to wipe the entire country off the map. And that would be pretty rough. But we also learned from Yamato that the reason that the island falling may be that Kaido, who is looking damaged like consistently recently, is starting to lose strength. Like, he doesn't have unlimited stamina, even though like that's kind of what we expected he would have. But yeah, he's still bleeding from the hit from last chapter. He's still got like dirt and shit caked all over his face and body. So it's kind of good for us. It really plays into the fact that like, hey, even Kaido has a limit, which is nice because it allows for us to kind of have a reasonable defeat where Luffy didn't take a Yonko on 1v1. And it's very clear that if he did throughout this chapter or throughout this arc, he would have got his cheeks clapped. But Kaido has gone up against no less than 15 opponents from the start of this, and now it's just him and Luffy left on the roof. So yeah, I think pretty good way to make it so that Kaido and Luffy can kind of be on that same level, and Luffy's definitely shown that he's on the Yonko caliber. But I think he's not where he's at. Like, he wouldn't be able to beat Kaido by himself just off rip from chapter 1000 when we made it to the roof, right? Leaving the roof piece, we are met with a flurry of slashes as we are introduced to King and his hybrid form, which is pretty dope. Zolo has hit King and broken off a piece of his mask. These beast pirates really be giving up information without any requirements, like literally just standing around like, oh man, King's face has never been seen before. No wonder he's pissed. It's like, I mean, I get it, Oda's trying to put in exposition, but like, I don't know, these guys be snitching. Hardcore. On the Straw Hat side, however, Zolo gets absolutely flung across the room and through a wall. He ends up being caught by Frankie, and thank God for Frankie. Frankie's amazing. Frankie asks if he needs help. Zolo says no, of course. And I love that, like, Oda, even though we don't have as much time as we did in the pre-time skip to kind of like develop Straw Hat relationships and stuff like that, is still taking time to feature certain characters, certain Straw Hats when he can. It was Brook a couple chapters ago, and now it's Frankie in this chapter. It was Frankie in the last chapter too. I really just love it. Like, when we get to see the Straw Hats interact with each other, it's just always great. But yeah, and we don't get that as much anymore, but I'm glad that we get to see it in this chapter. Frankly, promptly dips as soon as Zolo says no, and this is a good thing because King's right on his ass. Zolo gets hit by King again, sent through another wall, and this time he's sent outside of Onigashima, and he's gonna fall if he doesn't do some shit like soon. Zolo then performs some cabbagey level acrobatics to get Onigashima to get back to Onigashima and avoid falling to his death. And then we are met with kind of like this last panel where they're both asking for respect. Like, Zolo's asking for the respect to at least die by the sword, and King's asking that Zolo show some respect for the fact that he's a first Yonko commander. So yeah, like, I love it because it's kind of like Zolo's just like doesn't give a fuck about the fact that he's the first Yonko commander, and King made it very clear that he is not a swordsman, so he does not care about that swordsman code. Yeah, I really love this chapter. We all had our doubts about King and Queen as they were both being held down by Marco, but like, in the end, we're getting to see King showing off some real fighting prowess right now. I'm sure what we're going to get with Queen is going to be interesting. Queen's actually probably, out of everyone in the Wano arc for antagonist, probably the most interesting one for me. Just because he has like all of this information, but then also he has like a tie to Sanji, and who doesn't love Sanji? But yeah, so we get to see King actually playing on his intelligence, King actually doing things that would be smart. Like, I have a land-based opponent, I'm not going to fight in the land. Because like, his biggest strength, as Pell would say, is the fact that only 5 people in the verse have flight. So why not use it to his advantage? But no, so and Zoro truly doesn't. Like, it's good to see that we have Zoro, who doesn't have any ability to fly, but has the ability to try and keep himself from like falling at the very least, I guess. And King, and I want to see how that's overcome for Zoro. The last thing I'd like to say about King is really just like, I really enjoyed his hybrid form. It's a lot like Marco's, where he can kind of like shift what features he likes. And I don't know if that's just like a feature of being a high tier. I don't know if that's just a feature of being like a high tier um, devil fruit holder, but it seems to be the case for at the very least the bird type ones. Um, and yeah, so I really liked it. I think it was pretty unique, and I'm happy with it. To end out this chapter, we're going to talk about my MVP for this chapter. And my MVP goes to Momo for this chapter. This is awesome. I really love how Oda's doing this. Sorry, the dog's just going at his food. I really love how how Oda's writing Momo, and and it's really just great. Like he's really acting mature for his age, and that's something that we've known about him since Punk Hazard. He has this ideal of what it is to be a warrior, this ideal of what it is to be a samurai, and he's espousing that, but now he's also becoming that, and I really like that it's his fears that he's overcoming. I'm sure his inexperience will show later on when he's governing Wano, but for what Luffy's here to help with is overcoming those fears, overcoming not being Odin and becoming his own man in his own right, and I really love that. Yeah, so that was my chapter 1027 review, my first review of One Piece. I'm very happy that with you guys around, or that I was here for you guys. And yeah, if you liked it, please subscribe, and I hope to see you guys again in the next one. All right, have a good one.